On HY this evening, the 100th Eucharistic Procession through the streets of Cork City. We have the history and significance of this religious event. Plus, as relics of St. Carlos Acutis travel around Ireland, we hear about the young man and his life story, and we meet Irish people drawn to the message of his life and death. Welcome to Nationwide and to Cork City. It's 100 years since the first Eucharistic procession took place here in a bid to heal divisions after the Civil War and the War of Independence. Early this summer, for the 100th anniversary, our reporter Marion Malone went along to meet those involved.
It's midday and already crowds are gathering at the Cathedral of St. Mary and St. Anne, the North Cathedral, to celebrate the 100th anniversary of what has become one of Cork's oldest traditions, the Eucharistic procession through the streets, ending up at the Grand Parade in Cork City Centre.
Well, the feast of Corpus Christi goes back to the 13th century when Pope Urban V decided that he issued a papal bull to say that while the Eucharist is celebrated every day, it should have a day of its own every year. So from then on, the feast of Corpus Christi came into vogue.
A Eucharistic procession involves people gathering in a village, town or city as the leading clergyman carries the consecrated host through the streets, arriving at an appointed area where they pay homage to the Eucharist.
In the 19th century, after Catholic emancipation, more and more churches were built, and more and more opportunities came to celebrate the Feast of Corpus Christi, but they were usually small affairs. For example, here at the Cathedral, there's a report in the Cork Examiner of 1873 where Bishop Delaney here lined up outside here the church, as it was at the time, went down the main aisle into the altar, celebrated Mass, came back out, and over here he celebrated benediction, and then back around and into the church again, and the Eucharist was replaced in the tabernacle. So that was typical Eucharistic procession of the time.
In 1926 saw the first large-scale Corpus Christi event through the streets of Cork City, and since then it's always been known as Ireland's biggest procession, with participants from all parishes in the diocese. However, 100 years ago, the people of Cork and the Church saw it as a way of promoting healing and unity in what had become a very divided community.
So this procession was born out of a particular difficult time in our history that was lived in a particular way here in Cork, the fractures after a war of independence and a civil war. So the people of the city went to my predecessor at the time, the Bishop Collar, and asked him to bring the people together around the Eucharist. So the people have for 100 years walked behind Jesus through the streets of our city every year. This will be the 100th year.
Procession steward Craig Clinton is part of the team responsible for ensuring a safe and enjoyable procession for all participants, and his own family have been part of the Corpus Christi celebrations in Cork for generations.
I'm 32 and all I can remember my whole life is my grandmother setting up a little altar on this street, just here, for the Corpus Christi every single year. My mother would have said that she was doing it long time before I even came, because they lived on the street here on Cathedral Avenue, and it was a big thing, the procession. And my mother would remember as being a child, you know, cleaning the streets and putting up the curtains and taking down curtains and painting footpaths and everything. It was mad. So she's doing it a long time. So I suppose my whole life, up to when she died in 2007, I would remember her doing it. And then 2007, she actually done it in 2007. She died in August 2007. So from 2008, it has been myself and my mother would put it out just across the road here.
In a reflection of the broader impact of diversity in Irish society, over the years, the new Irish communities have become an integral part of the celebrations.
People travelled over the years from the different parishes. They assembled and walked down in procession And those people have kind of been added to in recent years with all our new Irish communities. So we have the Polish community, the Brazilian community, the different Indian communities like the Salo Malabar, Salo Malankar, the Filipino community, as well as so many school groups that are now joining in recent years. So it's just this whole array of colours and people walking together behind Jesus in unity.
I am from Nigeria originally. I've spent 26 years in this country. I came in as a student and I'm currently a professor in UCC lecturing in the Department of Food Business and Development. And this is my 10th procession in this place, and I'm also part of the leader of the African Catholic community in Cork here.
So my parents are Polish and I was born here in Cork. I'm currently studying in MTU, and I've ended up kind of growing with my faith with the UCC and the MTU students with Focus. For me, it's kind of representing my faith, again, having that community. Again, it's meant to kind of be there in the church, being there with others, sharing my faith, and spending time with the larger communities. Great, going out to volunteer, giving a bit of my own time.
I'm originally from Canada. I'm here as a student missionary, helping out with the Diocese of Cork, and we're here for the Eucharistic Procession, something that I've never witnessed before in Canada, and it's so new and so exciting, and I'm very excited to be a part of it.
In the lead up to the anniversary procession, a series of faith events took place across the Diocese of Cork and Ross, including a 2-week mission led by young people who are very much part of today's events.
A few weeks ago, we put out a call to all the young people that we are connected with in the diocese, and we had over 60 on a Zoom call to talk about the lead up to this procession. So on the lead up, we had a 2-week mission where we visited parishes, primary schools. We had the visit of the relics of St. Carlo Acutis as well. So we've had a lot of things going on, and just this morning we ended the 100 hours for the 100 years. So we had a continuous Eucharistic adoration down in St. Peter and Paul's. So, I mean, the faith is strong, and I suppose, yeah, there's the church is open to young people. We'd love to see more young people coming, and yeah, we're here and we're open with welcoming arms for them, and yeah, there's definitely lots of opportunities to get involved.
And a new song, Salutaris Hostia, has been specially commissioned for the 100th anniversary, composed by John Casey and involving instruments, a soloist and a massed choir.
Well, I suppose with it being the 100th anniversary of the procession and being the director of the cathedral choir here, I've decided that, I've been writing church music for 40 years. It would be appropriate to compose something for the occasion. So this piece came about. It's entitled O Salutaris Hostia, which with an English kind of translation, Food for Our Hunger is the title that I gave to it. It's a piece that tries to encompass as much as possible from the rich musical tradition that's there. Because if you take a look at the procession today, there'll be all diverse groups there. And so it was my idea to try and tie all the different musical ideas into one piece as well.
And although the heavens opened, the relentless rain did not deter the more than 5,000 people, even more than last year, who gathered for this special centenary celebration of the first Eucharistic procession in 1926.
I'm not aware of any other city that has this kind of unbroken tradition of bringing the Blessed Sacrament, Jesus, through the streets. So it's something that Cork people are very proud of, And in fact, our numbers have grown. So it's one of those wonderful expressions of faith that's seeing people, our traditional, if you like, parishes coming together with those new Irish, those people from different parts of the world who are making their home among us, sharing the one faith and walking together behind Jesus.
100 years on and a tradition still going strong. After the break, we hear of the life and times of St. Carlos Acutis. See you in a few minutes. Welcome back to Nationwide and to Cork City. Now in 2025, Pope Leo canonised St. Carlos Acutis. This young Italian man who died of leukemia in 2006 was the first millennial saint in the Catholic Church. Early this summer, his relics were brought around Ireland, and our reporter Colin Flynn went along to meet some of the young people who are following Carlos's story.
Yeah, I'm going to put that in. It's just the script isn't finalised yet here.
In County Limerick, three brothers are working on a film. Together they are storyboarding, scripting and filming a stop-motion animation using Lego.
And then another mountain behind those two.
Delicately moving the pieces of Lego an inch at a time, building their movie literally frame by frame.
Yeah, so in 2015 we started making Lego stop-motion animations. Just on a small little app called the Lego Movie Maker, I think it was called. We're just messing around really, just taking frames.
There's an incredible amount of work that goes into making these films, and it's a team effort.
I'd usually make the sets, like the or what the backgrounds for the minifigures to walk in, and I'd also usually do the narrating. So if there's a voiceover, that would usually be me. And yeah, I give my opinion whether it's asked for or not when that's around anything. So yeah.
Once the filming is done, the hard work only begins, as it's time for the edit.
Usually, like when all the animation is filmed and done, then we'll just leave it to Louis and he'll work away on that for a few days.
It's something I enjoy, just kind of meticulously adjusting things, rearranging them.
And what's the subject of their film? Well, they're bringing an extraordinary story to life. Not of a singer or of a sports star, but rather a saint. Using their love of Lego and filmmaking, the boys have created a short movie which tells the story of the life of the Catholic Church's newest saint, Saint Carlo Acutis.
Carlo Acutis was born in London in 1991 to Italian parents. Shortly after he was born, his family moved back to Italy. From an early age, Carlo showed a very special love of God, although his parents didn't practice their faith.
The Flynn Brothers movie was uploaded to YouTube, where it has now been watched more than 36,000 times, and they were inspired to make it after seeing this.
Salutare voi in piazza.
On the 7th of September 2025, tens of thousands of people gathered in St. Peter's Square in Rome. They had come for this canonization, a special mass in which the Pope declares a new saint in the Catholic Church. And on this day, two new saints were being created, Pier Giorgio Fossati and Carlo Acutis. Around 80,000 young people came from all over the world, and many had been drawn here because of the life of Carlo Acutis, the first millennial saint. Well, from the Vatican in Rome to the Church of the Holy Family in Ardfinnan in County Tipperary, where Father Michael Toomey is the parish priest.
So this is Holy Family Church in Ardfinnan. This actual building was built in 1965, one of the first churches to be built after Vatican II.
And inside the church, Father Michael has built a small shrine to Carlo Acutis, which also has relics of the saint.
So in the shrine itself, right in the centre, are three strands of hair of St. Carlo Acutis. So this is the first class relic, which was presented to me.
What's the difference between a first class relic and a second class relic and a third class relic?
So the first class relic here is a piece of the saint, an actual physical piece of the saint. The second class relic, which we have here, which was given to me by his mother the day that her son was canonized, is a second class relic, which is a piece of his t-shirt. And a third class relic is usually something that's placed on the tomb.
Father Michael tells me he built the shrine for the youth of the parish.
We were always looking for someone to connect young people to God, and St. Carlo Acutis is definitely that young person.
Young people do come in and gather to pray in front of it, including Millie O'Sullivan. Millie, what did you think when you first learned about the life of Carlo Acutis?
Well, I started learning about it in religion class in school, and a lot of the girls were kind of apprehensive at first because we actually had to do something in religion class. But then we started realising that it was actually a really interesting story, and it was kind of the more personal details about Carlo that we really enjoyed learning about. The fact that he liked the internet, or he liked playing the saxophone or playing football. Like, it was really interesting to see that there was someone so important that was very similar to our lifestyle.
Carlo Acutis was born in 1991 in London to Italian parents. The family then returned to Italy while he was still a baby, and they grew up in Milan. And by all appearances, he was an ordinary boy.
He's someone that played football and, played the saxophone and ate Nutella and get up to mischief in school. But he'd always look out for the younger ones, particularly if they were being bullied or anyone who felt a bit disadvantaged.
As well as looking out for those who were picked on in school, his parents noticed that he was spending all of his pocket money on buying food for the homeless. He also, they said, had an extraordinarily deep faith, always talking about God, praying the rosary and going to Mass. He was skilled at computer programming and even designed a website in which he catalogued Eucharistic miracles as reported around the world. Then, in October of 2006, Carlo suddenly became ill and was diagnosed with an aggressive form of leukemia. Within days, his condition had deteriorated, and even in such pain, his parents said he still talked about faith and his belief in God, saying he was suffering for the Church. He died on the 12th of October 2006. He was 15 years old.
I think one of my favourite stories of Carlo was at his funeral. So many people turned up at his funeral that his mother and father never met. They were the homeless of the streets of where he lived. He used to go out at night and feed the homeless. He would give them sleeping bags and sleeping blankets. He lived his life in faith. He lived his death in faith because he connected his death very much to the Holy Father and to the Church, and offering up all his suffering as well.
After his death, the story of his life started to spread throughout the Italian Church and then further afield around the world. The life story of Carlo seemed to resonate, especially with young people, many of whom shared his story on social media. Before anyone is canonized a saint, the Catholic Church first has to satisfy itself that some miraculous event associated with the person being considered for sainthood has been thoroughly investigated. In this case, there were reports of 2 such events attributed to people praying to Carlo, and after a number of years, church authorities were satisfied and upheld the claims and proceeded to declare Carlo a saint. His story was then amplified even more around the world.
My name is Esther, and I'm 15 years old. For me, it all started with this magazine.
I got to look at Carlo, and I was inches away from his face. It gives me hope that I too can become a saint.
Here in Ireland, where a decline in religious practice, particularly among young people, has been evident in recent years, the story of Carlo has drawn some of these young people back to the church, especially to events where the relics of the saint were brought and displayed in churches around the country, like this one in County Cork. The number of young people attending giving hope to the Catholic Church. Back in Ardfinnan, brother and sister Reen and Elizabeth O'Keefe are amongst those drawn to the story of the saint. When you read about the life of Carlo Acutis, what was it about the saint that inspired you?
I guess most people, when you think of a saint, it's someone living in the past. It's not someone living now. It's not someone who can experience the same things you do in life.
I suppose you could probably relate to him like he's a saint from this millennium. So he lived like similar lives to what we're living.
Played sports. He used the internet and stuff like that.
He didn't come from a religious background. He like chose that path himself.
He feels different to other saints.
We see so many people come through the doors from all age groups, from all around the country. We've had school groups, we've had nursing homes, we've had people just passing by just to come in and say a little prayer, to light a candle, because he is inspiring people in ways which we haven't actually probably witnessed in our lifetime.
I think the most kind of impressive part of it all was the fact that he used the internet, something that we are constantly told that it's really bad, but he used it for good to spread the word of the gospel, and I think that was a really important part for us, that we saw ourselves something that we use every day that also a saint used.
I'd say if you have one mountain and then another mountain behind those two.
And back in County Limerick, the Flynn Brothers Lego movie on Carlo Acutis continues to be watched by people around the world on YouTube. What struck you about his story when you were reading about this young Italian boy?
The first thing that struck me in 2020 was just, you see the date he died, 12th of October 2006, I think it was. And I was just blown away. 2006, that's the year Ollie was born. Like,
You imagine the
so
saints were from so long ago.
Yeah, and I was just like, wow. That was one of the things which kind of pushed us along our way to make this video about him.
I guess what we found kind of inspiring from him was the way that he was like a young person. He used technology to spread God's message.
Kind of one of the reasons why we did it in the first place was that it was almost to continue Carlo's mission that he started when he used the internet to evangelize the world. Yeah, it was nice to kind of feel like we were continuing that a bit, so yeah.
Doctors diagnosed a rare form of leukemia. He was just 15, but had sensed from an early age he would die young.
You have a little figure of Carlo here, and then show me the Lego one you have, the replica. That looks pretty good, doesn't it?
Yeah, pretty close.
The black hair, the red top.
It's a custom-made torso, actually.
Oh, really?
We had to scrub away one of the prints on the back and the front. So it's one of a kind.
It's one of a kind, I like it. Saint Carlo Acutis' life story, as described by those who knew him, tell of his life of deep faith and caring for those less fortunate. It seems this message has struck a chord with young Catholics across Ireland, and that Carlo has become a role model for many of them, including those we met while filming. And as the relics of the saint continue to be brought to villages, towns and cities across the country, who knows what the long-term impact of the story of this young Italian boy will be for the future of the Irish Catholic Church.
And that ends our programme here from Cork this evening. Pasuna Gurban to Tanya Nadian Darmouth. We're always on RTE +1 and the RTE player. O'Hullagh Air Nationwide. Slán Aggie.
On Fridays nationwide, we are in the Limerick village of Kilteely to meet the locals and see how they have saved their local pub, which was about to be closed forever.